Stories from the heart of the northeastern Cumbria. This is Inside Out. If Morpeth Clock Tower were to vanish from the local landscape, well, you can imagine the uproar. But that's exactly what's happened to one of our most prized treasures here in the northeastern Cumbria. And what's more, it's disappeared along with tens of thousands of pounds of public money. Inside Out viewers asked me to investigate. So I did.
Quite beautiful. They caught your eye.
For them just to disappear is criminal.
People may not have noticed in the past when they were there, but you certainly notice when they're not there. They're beautiful, they're ornate, they're historic.
We're very cross, very angry about it.
The gates were last seen in 2004, but how could they just vanish? Where are they now, and can we get them back? I'm on a mission to find out, but first I need to know more about them. It's all a bit of a mystery how these gates ever ended up at Hartford Hall. Here at the Northumberland Records Office, there isn't much written about them, but there are some photographs, and these here certainly make them look pretty foreboding. There's a sign saying private grounds, no admittance. They weren't very welcoming, were they, really? But I have found this reference to them in a book all about the craftsmanship, and it says good work, but maybe a little OTT, even for Victorian times. It says, in this work, it is in deadly earnest, and deadly is the governing word. So it seems they were impressive, these gates, but not to everyone's taste. But they were a masterpiece, worthy of a Grade 2 star listing by English Heritage.
Well, this is really and truly a national treasure. They're really very special. It's very much, of course, obviously in the top 7% of the quality listed buildings we have in this country. And within that category, there's some really good bedfellows in the north here. We have a swing bridge in Newcastle, Carlisle Railway Station, and we also have another bridge, which is the Transporter Bridge in Middlesbrough. And if they were to disappear sort of suddenly, of course, I think we'd be all up in arms.
Hartford Hall near Bedlington was a glorious country house and grounds that became a rehabilitation centre for injured miners. When it closed, it fell into disrepair, so badly, in fact, it was put on the Heritage at Risk register. A developer seemed to have the answer, building an exclusive housing estate which would pay for the refurbishment of the old hall and allow the gates to be sent away for restoration. But the company collapsed, owing £10 million. The gates never returned. But I have tracked them down to an industrial estate in North Yorkshire where they've been languishing for the past 6 years.
As far as English heritage are concerned, they should be celebrated now. Instead, they're stuck in this warehouse. They represent a tremendous work of art. The Coalbrookdale Company, who made them in the 1870s, were among the world's leading exponents of cast iron art, which is how it was regarded at the time. That is just fantastically perfect and detailed.
And to cast it, I mean, it's 3D, it's got nooks and crannies, it's really difficult stuff, isn't it?
It's been done by a process which is not clear to moulders nowadays.
Playful designers had a field day, adding some very quirky details.
It's been moulded directly from somebody's hand.
Really? And what about the workmanship? Because it looks life. I mean, it is lifelike.
It's superb. You can virtually get your fingernail under the fingernail of the person whose hand it was.
But it looks like you could almost see the fingerprints from when it was first made. It's that fine and lifelike. And have you seen anything like this anywhere before?
No, I've never seen anything like this.
We can get a real sense of what we're missing by looking at another set made by the same company. Thousands of people pass by every day and admire these ornamental gates close to the Albert Hall in London. Coalbrookdale made these gates for the Great Exhibition of 1851. The sole intention was to amaze visitors from home and abroad, a showpiece of British craftsmanship. But as resplendent as these gates are here in Hyde Park, in heritage terms, they're not as important as the ones at Hartford Hall. The Hartford gates were made for the Vienna World Exhibition of 1873. They were to stand at the entrance to the British Pavilion, and I've obtained a hitherto unknown picture taken at the time. don't be fooled by the scale. The pavilion is several stories high, the gates were 12 feet tall, and contemporary accounts reveal they were painted chocolate and gold. And on closer inspection, there's the life-size hand. At Chris Topp's workshop, they were able to repair some of the damage caused by the harsh Northumberland winters. Here, they fashion wrought iron by hand rather than pour it into a cast. Both techniques were used by Coalbrookdale, and it appears these gates weren't built to last.
Because the gates were probably assembled in a hurry for the exhibition, they probably didn't take too much notice of coating or protecting the wrought iron where it passed through the cast iron. And so we've got a certain amount of corrosion crept in there over the years, and this is the sort of condition that all of this metalwork was in when we first saw it.
As the true state of the gates was revealed, the costs went up and it led to a dispute. With bills unpaid, work stopped, and then the developer went out of business. The gates are stuck in limbo, caught up in a legal and financial mess every bit as complicated as the design work on the gates themselves. English Heritage, who listed the gates, gave thousands of pounds in grant money to the developer just before he failed. Northumberland County Council is supposed to enforce listed building protection and insist on the gates' return, but both became powerless the moment the business went into administration. Of all the parties involved in the contentious wrangle over the gates, only English Heritage refused to go on camera. It lost $23.5 grand of public money, and I wanted to know why it gave a grant to the developer at Hartford Hall, even though it was well aware of a catalogue of delays and disputes in the restoration project. And it was no secret, the development was in financial trouble. In a statement it said,
English Heritage decided to release an interim payment to break the deadlock, but when the funds were paid to Hartford Hall Estate, the account was frozen by the bank. Our primary concern is that the gates are repaired and returned, and that the public money paid in good faith is not lost.
I don't have any money. We've got creditors at the top of the ranking who are not going to be paid $5 million, and we've got other creditors who are unsecured who won't receive any money. And regrettably, English Heritage is one of those creditors.
So their money has gone, really?
Regrettably, their money has gone.
So what next? One reason people have been reluctant to buy the estate from the administrator is that any new owner will have to spend £1 million to comply with outstanding planning regulations. Nevertheless, one has stepped forward, but it all hinges on getting permission to build more houses on the estate.
The developer's taken an immense amount of time in putting the scheme together and has explored all the options and discovered that this way will allow him to release the monies to make sure everything happens.
Do I take it then that if you get planning permission, you are promising to get those gates back?
We will get the gates back. They will be restored, and we're looking forward to putting the chocolate and gold colours back onto them.
But as much as the current residents want their gates back, they say more homes is too high a price to pay, and they'll object to any more development. They want the administrator to cut his losses, hand the estate over to them, and they'll raise the funds they need.
Why would we need 23 new houses to get the gates repaired? The only reason that a developer wants to put more houses here is so they can make money, not so they can return the gates. The best chance we have of getting the gates back is the residents to take control and raise the money to get them back.
If the administrator can't find a buyer and isn't prepared to hand the estate over to the residents for nothing, the land could end up reverting to the Crown, which would leave us no further forward. One thing is sure, unless someone becomes the new owner of Hartford Hall, then part of our heritage will simply gather dust in a North Yorkshire shed.